Well, moving right along, we come next to the GPS tab. You click in the GPS tab, you get this display, and we'll just kind of describe it. The middle is your actual target cache. It's the cache that you actually selected over here. So let's go ahead and select Tom's Foolery, and notice that that's GCWRMG. And so if we go back here, we have now GCWRMG, and we have its latitude and longitude. And we have a kind of a ridiculously high number of kilometers distance, and the reason that is I'm on the East Coast, and in the simulator here, the current location, as you see down here, that's actually the latitude and longitude for Apple's headquarters. So we're kind of far away for that particular cache, but in the normal course of things, this would be your latitude and longitude. And you'll see this little asterisk star pulsate every time the location is updated, and that routine is called. That just sort of gives you a little bit of a heartbeat, lets you know your GPS is getting information. Here we show the current accuracy readout for the GPS. And by the way, to convert to English units, you can do that in the main settings again for iGeoCacher under the iPhone settings. Once again, we see the GC Buddy icon here. If you have that program, then that will actually launch it with these coordinates so that you can actually begin to use that program and automatically enter them for you. If you don't have it and you don't want to see this button, you can turn that off in the settings at this time. And let's see. Currently we have a red arrow here, and that red arrow is actually telling me that the bearing for this particular cache is just a shade less than 80 degrees, about 79 degrees from my current location. And of course that makes sense since we're a little bit north of Southern California and considerable distance to the east of them. That makes good sense. Up at the top you have 5 buttons, and we'll talk about them more or less in order. Over here we have a button which controls the I guess what I call the line mode more than anything else, and you'd probably most of the time want to operate this with this in the auto mode. But you can use it in the manual mode, in which case you have point 1 and point 2, and if you're walking along and you pick a particular landmark and then pick point 1 and then walk a little bit farther, typically you want to be at least 50 to 100 feet minimum, but pick point 2, you notice you get another arrow appears, and that arrow actually shows you the bearing between those 2 reference points. So this allows you to establish a line of position between 2 landmarks. That can be helpful in the field, and before the compass feature came along, it was very, very helpful because you could put it in auto mode fundamentally. By the way, you can turn that feature off to get rid of the pointer if you're not using it. In auto mode, it will just sense which direction you're moving, and if once you've moved sufficiently based upon the error here, if the error is small, you don't have to move as much. If the error is larger, you have to move a larger distance. It will give you an indication of the direction that you're actually moving based upon sampling and computing that bearing distance between the successive samples of your GPS position. So that's what the line mode is for. You have the yellow color coding here to highlight the yellow arrow when it appears, so you know which goes with which. Moving to the center button, you have a start and stop GPS. Normally it'll say stop, meaning that the GPS is running, and again you can see that it's running by the pulsing of the asterisk down here. But if you wanted to stop it, let's say you found the cache and you want to turn off the GPS just temporarily so that you're reducing your battery drain while you're making logging or whatever, you can do that. The GPS will automatically be started when you come to this screen normally. To the right of that is a button which determines which way the scale is oriented. You can have north up, and the arrows will rotate appropriately. You can have cache up, in which case the scale will rotate and is needed to keep the cache bearing at the top, and so you can kind of see which way is north based on cache bearing. You have line up, which if you're using the line mode and you're walking along and establishing a line of position, it'll put that bearing of that line at the 12 o'clock position of the scale. Basically, if you were holding the iPhone up, that would be the direction you were walking. And of course, if you're running a 3GS, it's really nice now we have a compass mode, in which case it will actually put the direction that it thinks you're currently facing based on the compass reading, the internal magnetometer, and that will be a green arrow that will show up at the top. You don't see it right now because this is the simulator. But in compass mode, you'd have a green arrow here, which pretty much always stays at the 12 o'clock position, and the compass then rotates around so that it's actually acting like a magnetic compass and showing you which way is north. In this case, north would be to our left and slightly behind us. And what makes this really nice in terms of field orientation, and it's a little difficult to show in the simulator, is in compass mode, you can stand still in a circle and turn around, and the scale will rotate and orient correctly. And you can actually pretty much home in on the cache just by walking in the direction of the red arrow at all times. Again, that's assuming there's no stray magnetic fields around you, like, for example, you're not under some high tension power lines or near some metal bodies or in your car where there are a lot of stray magnetic fields that can interfere with the compass. You do have to watch out for that. And this uses the same compass sensing electronic circuitry that's built into the 3GS, and which powers the built-in compass display. You'll see that they track rather nicely. I will say that I have set it up so that it shows you true north, so it's automatically taking into account and compensating for magnetic variation at your latitude and longitude. That's one of the options. And so it is actually displaying true north, not magnetic north. That's something to bear in mind. I think generally that's more useful for the kind of thing we're doing in geocaching. Finally, then, to the right you have this button where you can mark your location or you can mark the target. And all this does is transfer the current either location coordinates or the target coordinates to the waypoint screen. So, for example, here, if we were to say mark our location, notice the location down here is significantly different. 37,122. If we say mark location and we go over here to the waypoint screen, we see that location automatically pre-filled for us, and it puts a little M behind the GCID just to give you a pre-fill that. Again, you can edit any of this as you wish. It's just pre-filling it so that you don't have to do so much typing. I'm going to come back here, and there's our green arrow now for compass mode, since we came back to the display. I'm going to mark the target now, and you'll notice that when I go over here, it's now going to say 36 and 80 rather than the other coordinates, which are much farther distant. So now I'm marking the target, and again I have this little M behind here indicating that that's coming from a marked value. And we'll talk about the waypoint display in the next video. That pretty much, I think, wraps up the GPS display. Oh, we do display the satellite time down here. So, of course, you have time from the iPhone. But here's the GPS time as well. And you can see as that updates, that's also giving you an indication of GPS polling activity. And that'll vary in terms of its repetition rate, depending upon how often you get updates, the strength of the signal, etc. It's set for maximum sensitivity as far as the API is concerned, so you'll get just as much updating as is available from the API inside the iPhone. And I think that pretty well covers the GPS display.